All right, Nick. Get Jake Fraley up. 3-1 count. Trying to get a base runner on. That's how it starts. That's a walk. Don't know if I'm ahead of you. Am I ahead of you?
Ramos just flied out.
Oh,
That's
no,
where I'm at.
you're way ahead of me. I'm way behind.
Oh, no.
I'm like 48
no.
seconds behind.
Jake just got doubled up, too.
What
Oh.
just happened? We're off to a great start on Chatterbox Reds Friday night edition.
That's tough.
What just happened?
I don't know. I just saw Ramos flat out, so I kind of looked down. I didn't realize Jake Fraley
But it wasn't even like a close. Like it wasn't even.
It kind of off the bat for a second. It looked pretty good. I don't know from my vantage point. So I guess it looked like maybe it was hit a little better than it was. Yikes! That's not great.
I think you're being nice.
It's not great.
Oh my gosh! Stay fair.
Nope. Okay, we're caught up. Why can't I ever do this?
Man.
Oh yeah, this is Nick Senzel's first home game since that walk-off.
Down to our final strike, as they say.
Not ideal.
These announcers. One specific one in general.
The color guy?
Oh.
That's the Rockies guy.
He's a color guy for the Rockies?
Yeah, like he's their everyday color guy.
Jeez
He's their
Louise. Just when I thought that the Rockies couldn't be worse.
Yeah.
Come on, Nick. Be good. It's just tough. It is what it is.
101 Well.
All right. Let's make this show happen. We need to have a show, so we're going to do one. Here we go. All right, Reds fall on Apple TV. 5-4 to the Chicago White Sox. Nick, a game that looked like we were off to a hot start. Hunter Green was shoving. Things were going well. And then all of a sudden, we can't have it both ways with Great American Ballpark, but it sure felt like a little bit of a cheap home run out the left. I didn't really get a chance to look at the StatCast. I didn't get a chance to see any of the metrics. Maybe it would have donged in all of the ballparks, but it just felt gross. And that's probably just my bias and fandom getting in the way. But, Nick, your overall thoughts on the game and then a little box score recap.
Yeah, it was 18 out of 30. It did only have a expected batting average of 180, though, so Not exactly sure how that all computes together, but it definitely was. It definitely was a GAB special-ish. I don't know. It stinks. That's one pitch. He was one pitch away from getting out of the inning. Had Anderson down 0-2. We'll talk about that when I go through the rundown here. But yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, one pitch away from probably winning. I mean, that's honestly probably what it was. Just wasn't in the old cards today. Yeah, let's run through it here. So Reds got off to a 1-0 lead in the third inning. TJ Friedel doubled, tried to get it to a triple, got thrown out a third base on a challenge play, put the Reds down, but the Reds still up 1-0. India homered in the fourth. That made it. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place.
You're all right, Nick. He broken Friedel broken bat, a little flare down the right field line, caught a break, hit chalk, by the way, like literally landed on the line, rolled down in the corner. He turned second, headed to third. Run already had scored, thankfully for the Reds, so we got off to a lead. And then Friedel kind of had this weird situation where he slid into the bag, couldn't quite keep his hand on there while he was trying to drag his foot on, went to the replay. Replay finally got it right. Maybe as we get through this broadcast, we do have Apple TV on the rundown. Maybe if this was on a different network, perhaps they wouldn't have had the camera angles or the beautiful cameras to suffice, but they overturned it. New York finally got something right, to give them credit. After that, Red scored a couple more. You got that in you?
Yeah, I'm good now. Yeah, bottom four, Reds got 2 runs. Fraley, RBI single, then a Nick Senzel RBI single. But then the fifth, Hunter Green was really cruising. I mean, he was dominant. I believe he had 7 strikeouts through the first 4 innings. Just looked as good as Hunter's looked, but in the fifth gave up a couple singles. And yeah, like I said, 1 pitch away from getting out of the inning. Had Elvis Andrus 0-2. And Elvis Andrus put one in the first row out in left field. First home run of the year for Andrus. Just, it's tough. But bottom 5, as I was trying to say earlier, got ahead of myself. India hit a home run.
Yes, he did.
Good for India. That was his first home run since the second game of the year. Put the Reds up 4-3.
Wasn't a cheap one either. Dead center.
Yeah, and then but unfortunately, like what the fifth carried over into the sixth for Hunter. Got hit pretty hard in the 6th inning. Luis Robert hit a 2-run home run. It wasn't as cheap. Put the White Sox up 5-4, and that was the end of the scoring for the night. Another good night for the Reds bullpen, but Reds offense just couldn't get another run across. And then we saw in the 9th some bad base running by Fraley, pretty much thwarted any chance of a comeback again.
Are you? I know we have this rundown ticker, and sometimes we try to stay in order. Let's do that. I do have some thoughts on Hunter Green. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on Apple TV. I think it's nice. It's unique. It's kind of like off the top of my head, I know we're both running on really, really minimal sleep, so my vocabulary and my brain power today has been very detrimental. It's been bad. So my analogy game has just really gone down the tubes today, but it's a flavor of the month type thing, I guess. I don't know how often I'd like to watch it. I don't know how often I'd like to have it. The broadcasters I thought stunk, but maybe that's just because you get biased and you like listening to your own guys. And so to be fair to those, I don't know them. Maybe they would be better if they were my hometown team and I had to listen to them every day. However, wasn't a huge fan of that. But outside of that, I thought the cameras looked great. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, like when the Friedel challenge play when he was on third base, they were showing some really cool camera angles that you don't see on every day's broadcast. So that was cool. Chat, let us know what you thought about the Apple TV broadcast. Curious.
Yeah, I'll throw a chat in there. I'll throw a poll in there. Why not?
I feel like the Apple TV broadcast also is kind of hard to sell like the game of the week when there's like 15 people in the stadium. Like I feel like if it was a packed or even a 25,000 fan crowd, I feel like maybe it would feel a little cooler, but it kind of felt a little hollow just because of that. Last year, the Apple TV broadcast, one of their guys was Steven Nelson, who I really liked, but the Dodgers actually scooped him up as their backup to Joe Davis, which a backup to Joe Davis is still a pretty substantial broadcasting job because he misses a lot. But yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of potential with Apple TV. Some good, some bad.
RM brings up
different.
RM brings up a great point in the chat that I really, I thought I was the only person that thought of this. So Apple, they think highly of themselves, and they don't put the cast function on their devices, on their Apple products, because it's a competitive product with Google, right? Google Cast or Chromecast, whatever the term is. And the truth is that there's a lot of televisions that implement and incorporate, casting more so than the whole Apple TV screen mirroring or whatever they call it. It is disappointing. I'm with him. It's like Apple TV said Apple TV is great if you don't want to watch the game on your TV, that is. So I'm with him, man. That was a little disappointing. And I know that there's workarounds for that, but I'm just to the point where I've succumbed to the pressure of probably just going and getting Fioptics at this point. It was nice not having to get on a VPN tonight, Nick. That was nice. I didn't have to mess around and go to like 5 different servers to finally get one that worked. And then all of a sudden, was the server keeping up to where I wouldn't get in buffering and my picture was going to stay clear? These are all things that someone that wants to watch the Cincinnati Reds in the local Cincinnati market is currently trying to navigate. On May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, shout out Mexico, 2023. So, maybe I'm going to succumb to the pressure and get Fioptics, and that's where we're going to be. I'd like to say that the Apple TV is a little bit above average.
I'm curious your thoughts on this. So there's a possibility, with Bally folding at some point. Like, we don't think it's going to last. What if Apple TV bought the rights to local teams? Like, don't they do that for the MLS? And we had Sadak and Chris Welsh.
I'd be all
Jim
in.
Day.
I'd be all in.
I think that'd be pretty. I think they would go really well together. I would love that. I think the graphics are cool. I hate Bally's graphics. I think Bally's graphics are awful.
Well, the other thing, I know that you probably enjoy this. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't assume. I think that there's a little overkill from time to time with all of the different statistical things coming in and out of your screen all the time. Maybe it's just because I can't focus and I'm just too distracted and I'm always just looking at different random stuff, and I just like to be like, I just want to watch the game and not feel like I'm always missing something. That's part of my own personal issues. However, your thoughts on that? Did you feel like it was overkill? Do you think it's perfect? You love it?
I'm probably the wrong guy for this, because when I'm watching a Reds game, I've got 8 windows open with StatCast and a couple other sites that I use to track different things throughout the game. So, I love it. The more, the better for me. I feel like they do integrate it pretty well. Like they have that little thing at the bottom right corner. It'll say typically probability of getting on base, something like that. I do feel like that's pretty faded. It's not like flashing lights in your screen. It's there if you want to see it, but it's not I don't feel like it takes away. But yeah. I could see other people who don't enjoy consuming a baseball game like I do, which is fine, not enjoying it, and that's fair.
All right, Hunter Green. He continues to impress. Yeah, he continues to impress. He looks the part. There's some slight concern, not overly concerned. Let me be very clear. I'm not hitting the panic button. But it just does seem like he gets hit hard eventually. I don't know what some of it's just you throw so damn hard, Nick, that if guys just put a barrel on the baseball, it goes, because you're supplying plenty of inertia. You're supplying plenty of power. And I guess I'm not going to complain because he throws hard. However, it just feels like when they come around for that third time through the lineup, we're having problems. What do you make of it?
Well, Hunter only threw his changeup 6 times tonight, so I wonder if it was one of those situations where he was so dominant early in this game with the fastball and was getting so many swings and misses, ended up with 19 in the game, that he didn't feel like he needed to throw his changeup as much, and then it kind of caught up with him as the game went on. Um, I don't know. I always feel so inadequate trying to analyze what's wrong with Hunter Green. I'm not qualified for this. That's just the thing that like kind of glared to me was that, he only threw the changeup 6 times today. I feel like his last couple starts he had mixed it a lot better than that. But again, he was just so dominant early. Did he, fall in love a little bit too much with the fastball? And maybe he needs to, mix his pitches up better even when he's dominating a little bit more, just to help him be able to go deeper in the game.
Yeah.
But that one pitch to Elvis Andrus goes 2 feet further. It's an entire different conversation right now, right?
Yeah, it is, and I don't know if it's one of those things where you can even change this, but it would be nice if his fastball got a little bit of movement to it. And I'm not saying it's straight as an arrow, but it's certainly hittable. I mean, when guys are, and that's to your point, into some of the chat's point, it's like you got to obviously have more than a fastball in your arsenal. But if his fastball had movement to it, then I'm not saying you don't need another pitch, but you certainly aren't going to run into the situation where guys are just sitting on a fastball and the next thing you know, it's a home run. I'm not overly concerned, but I do have this slight hesitation that, let's not get so enamored with the analytics and the stuff plus and all this stuff. If he's not producing, we need to at least be somewhat concerned at some point.
Yeah. I'm trying to find sorry.
I know you're looking up something. You got like something on one of your 5 screens over there?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the game from against the A's, because I think that was the game where he mixed it really well.
Yeah, and he may have. And I think the A's game, he didn't get much help behind him. I think that might have been it was against the A's.
No, so it wasn't the A's game. It was the game before. He's only threw the changeup twice against the A's. Yeah. So, but it must have been the game before. It was substantial. I feel like it was closer to maybe 20% of his pitches or something.
He doesn't need to throw. I see Chris Johnson in the chat. Thank you for joining. He said, I doubt he ever throws 30% changeups, maybe 15, 20% tops. He doesn't even really need to throw a ton of changeups or a ton of sliders. He just needs to be able to prove that he can throw it whenever he wants for a strike. That's the main thing. If you can throw back-to-back sliders for a strike and to start a hitter off, they're going to obviously at some point start to respect the fact that that's an opportunity or a possibility to come. I think when Chapman was going bad, it wasn't so much that he wasn't throwing strikes. It was more so that he couldn't throw the slider for a strike at all. So it just makes a major league hitter sit up there and say, okay, if I'm relatively disciplined, I'm going to look for a fastball and a fastball only. And if he throws 3 sliders for a strike, then I know I'll just walk back the dugout and all will be well in the world, because he's not going to be able to do that. Sometimes I wonder if they do the same with Hunter. But again, I'm not overly concerned about it. He had the velocity was there. He was competing, to your point, of a pop-up or fly ball, whatever you want to call it. It was a home run, to be fair, but it just felt gross. If it was 3 feet shorter, we're probably acting like Hunter Green's has no problems, and he's going to be a stud moving forward. I proposed a question to you, Nick, before the game today. And I wasn't being one iota. I was not being facetious. I know people in the chat think that I like to use that word on purpose, but it's just what my brain thinks of when I'm trying to explain myself. Is this? Let me bring Nick in here, and hopefully he doesn't get in trouble because he has clothes everywhere or something like that. His wife's gonna make it on him. No, he looks great.
Cleaned up.
You look great.
Cleaned up.
I said to you before the game started, if you had the Bats play against the Reds today, and you gave the Reds Hunter Green, or excuse me, if you gave the Bats Hunter Green, and the Reds had to throw Luis Cessa, Do you really think the Reds are going to win that game? And I think they would not. I really don't think they would. Let's go position by position and ask ourselves, is there really a dramatic difference? I'm going to say a 5-game series. I think the Bats would win. I really do. Hunter Green pitches every single time, and Luis Sessa pitches every single time. Now I know I'm handicapping this a little bit, but you got India and Lopez at second base. What are you going to say, Nick?
Equal bullpens. We're just going to call it
equal bullpens. Yeah, equal bullpens. Okay. Equal bullpens.
All right.
Yeah, equal bullpens.
I think I'm going to take India over Arroyo Lopez. I think I am.
I would say that's what you do. Yeah, you're definitely going to do that. I don't know if there's a massive gap there, though. I mean, I don't know. And there's a gap. Let's not act like we don't like India. Shout out Jonathan India, hit a home run tonight. I have nothing against India, like I said before. TJ Friedel, definitely taking Friedel. This is where things get interesting because Spencer Steer shouldn't really have to be pinned up against CES. I like Spencer Steer, but CES is the guy you're taking at first base if you had to pick.
I'll make a hot take here. I think Christian Encarnacion Strand might be the best player on the Reds if he was called up tomorrow. And I'm not even saying he has to be called up tomorrow. You know, I've backed off on this a little bit more than anyone else. But I just think he has so much upside. I think right now, just his ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark, I think he has a chance to be the Reds' best hitter. So yeah, I love Spencer Steer, but I'm taking now. If they were both playing third base, maybe I'd take Steer because of the defense.
And we're playing right now, by the way. Some people in the chat, well, maybe later. Yeah, maybe later. No, we're playing right now. I'm talking about the guy that just hit for a cycle yesterday. All right. And I'm also talking about the guy that hit three home runs yesterday. They're both playing on the same team. And before you sit here and you act like there's a huge gap between the major leagues and the minor leagues, I would say you are right. But let's not forget Vossler can't get a hit in AAA either. And let's also not forget that Will Benson can't either. So,
Will hit a home run yesterday.
Will did hit a home run yesterday. Stevenson and Martini. Here's the thing. Stevenson's struggling right now. We all know that. But Stevenson, I mean, you know, come on. We're not straying too far off the beaten path. Okay? Right?
Yes. I'm taking Stevenson.
Is there really a huge difference between Fraley and Hopkins right now? Right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's a huge difference between those two.
So if Lodolo was throwing, would you rather have Hopkins playing or Fraley playing?
I'd rather have Hopkins. But if I'm playing a 7-game series, I'd rather have Fraley because I think his ability to mash right-handed pitching outweighs his inability to hit left-handed pitching.
Okay, fair. Well, just the fact that we're having this discussion is absolutely hilarious. We're taking Henry Ramos.
I'm taking Will Benson.
Wow, that's wild take.
Will Benson has so much more upside.
Shame on you, Nick. Shame on you. After everything that Henry Ramos has done for this ball club, and you specifically, personally, you said he should be brought up. He came right up, and then he proved you right. You know, he made you look like an absolute genius wearing that AFC Richmond shirt. I don't even know where you got that, first and foremost. Second of all, that show, just like the Reds, going sky high and then just right in the dump. We'll talk about that later.
Birthday gift from the wife.
I dig it. All right, let's move through this. Senzel, De La Cruz, that's a position, if we're being completely honest, I know we all love Ellie, but right in this very moment, Senzel's playing absolutely fantastic. So, you know, I would say that's a toss-up. But De La Cruz is electric. If you've never seen him play, just go watch him play. And then I'm not even going to discuss this one because we all know that Newman is definitely the better option. I mean, have you seen him play? Today, he's hitting balls hard everywhere. Now, it's a shame that he hits one to center field and the center fielder throw him out. That's not right. That was the second baseman that threw him out. But anyway, what do you think, chat? Are we being too hard on the Reds right now? I think this would be a tough series. I really do. Let's not forget that I handicapped it by saying Sessa has to pitch.
All right, so how many of these are you taking? I'm taking 4. I'm taking CES, I'm taking Benson, I'm taking De La Cruz, and I'm taking McLean.
I'm taking Robinson. What are you looking at me crazy? Like, what do you think, Mal? You think Mally's a fantastic catcher? I mean, yeah, defensively maybe. Can't hit water if he fell out of a boat.
Play in the major leagues last year?
Huh? This is a new year, Nick. This is a new year. McLean hit 230 last year. This is a new year. Guys, get better. Come on. You should know that, Ted.
He was 8 for 59.
Okay.
Awful. He had a -1 weighted runs created plus. -1. That's hard to do.
He had COVID.
Oh, jeez.
All right. This is going to be a...
Luke Mally's got a 733 OPS in the show this year. He's not been terrible.
Are you gonna act like Chucky Robinson's not hitting like 500 this year?
I'm gonna take.
Are you gonna act like he's not hitting 500? Are you gonna sit here with a straight face and not look the public in the eye and say that Chucky Robinson's hitting like 450?
He's hitting great, but I'm taking Luke Malley. He's played well. This is disrespectful to Luke.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Luke.
He's played well. He's played well in the show. This
lineup in and of itself is disgusting. It's a disgusting mess. You can defend it all you want, but it's a gross, disgusting mess. And in 3 or 4 years, you're going to look back at this lineup and you're going to laugh about it. Visibly. You're going to literally be like, remember this lineup? We ran these guys out there. Remind yourself. Someone bookmark however you can do it. Bookmark this and come back to it in 3 or 4 years. Hopefully it just pops up on your iPhone or your Android or whatever device you might have, your Nokia. Do they even make those anymore? Blackberries. Reds MILB, Nick. Let's get into that. We'll have a little bit of fun with the chat. And then from there, I'm going to bed. It's been a long couple nights. Nick's like, hey, do you want to do this Spaces yesterday? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump on there, but I'm just going to shut up. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to listen to everybody's thoughts. Of course, I couldn't shut up. Next thing you know,
switch us back?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not on my game.
Neither are the Reds.
Not the only one. Look at that, Nick Kirby, big black hole on the old YouTube.
All right,
go ahead.
Run through it.
Reds MILB.
A lot of games still in action.
Presented by who, Nick?
Betfred Sportsbook, the
That's
leader.
Right.
Hey, shout out to Betfred Sportsbook. If you're not signed up for Betfred Sportsbook, my birthday was yesterday. Betfred Sportsbook sent me a $5 bonus bet for my birthday. You know, I signed up for like 600 of these other ones. Not a single one of them sent me anything.
That's nice. I like that.
So, shout out Betfred. Appreciate you. I'm going to put it on the Reds to win the World Series. All right. All right, Louisville.
Spend it on toilet paper.
They're losing 6-2. I got a positive, though. Brandon Williamson did not get shelled today. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk. Only 1 walk, which is huge for him, and 7 strikeouts. So shout out Brandon Williamson. God, he needed that.
He did what again?
Today. 6 innings pitched.
Through 6 innings.
6 innings, 3 runs.
3?
Only walked 1 batter.
3 earned runs?
3 earned runs, but he only walked 1 batter, 7 strikeouts. I mean, for a guy with a ERA that was approaching 10, that's good for him. Good for him.
It is. It's great.
Matt McLean had a fielding error today. He was 1 for 3. Ellie, 2 for 4. Christian Encarnacion Strand, 0 for 4. Will Benson, 0 for 2 with a walk.
Send him back to Chattanooga.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the Reds missed the window. If they would have called him up, they wrecked his whole career. We'll blame him forever for that.
Wow. I can't agree more.
All right, Chattanooga is leading 3-2 over Birmingham. That is in the top of the 8. Noelvi Marte has been on base twice in this game. Daniel Veloheen, catching prospect for the Reds, hit his first home run of the year. Christian Roa. He was the Reds' second-round pick in 2020. Has really been struggling this year. 5 innings pitched, only allowed 1 hit, no runs, struck out 10. He did walk 5, but much better outing for Roa. If he can ever figure out the command, he can be a solid pitcher, but that, is quite a few of these guys. The Dayton Dragons, they just finished. They just wrapped up a 6-3 win. Dayton scored 5 runs, Trace, in the 8th inning. So they're the team that had been blowing a lot of late leads. They came back tonight. Austin Hendrick, 2 hits tonight, and Tyler Callahan had 2 doubles in that game. So good for the Dragons. And then Daytona, they lost 3-1. Not a whole lot really good in this game. Carlos Jorge had 2 hits, but everyone else, Collier was 0 for 3. Rodriguez was 0 for 3. Stewart 0 for 4. Acosta 0 for 3. So not a whole lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's always tomorrow.
Always
tomorrow. What time's first pitch tomorrow?
Same time.
6:40.
Are we talking Reds or are we talking Louisville Bats?
We're talking Reds.
We probably. Ricky Karcher's pitching for Louisville right now.
Oh, yeah? What? So 6:40, back on Bally's.
Back on Bally, yeah.
Bally made their payment to the Reds. So
Chris, John and Barry. Chris Welsh, I know, is going to be on pre- and post-game tomorrow. So,
really? I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I know what to say, but I don't know if it should be said.
As long as Barry stays in the booth and not as the Reds manager, I'm not going to complain.
You're not a fan of what he says during the game?
No, I don't really hate him. I don't think he's. I wish he'd prepare a little bit more. The thing I do like about Barry is he likes the Reds, and I feel like every broadcast.
Oh man, that's a high. What's the term to use there? That is a. Man, I'll tell you what, my brain is just mush. It's a pretzel. It's junk. It's trash. It really is. My brain is so bad right now. I can't even find words. Barry.
I like that Barry is rooting along with us every night.
Okay.
That's my pause. I understand. Barry has come a long way though. I will say that. He's better than he was. Barry was really rough.
High standards is what you have.
Yes,
that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. When you said that, I was like, man, you got some really high standards. Yeah. You like the fact that he likes the Reds.
Yeah.
That's nice.
For him alongside.
I'll tell you what, if you put that on the qualifications of the resume when you submit that out, you're going to eliminate a lot of people. Not going to be many people that can sign up for that job. He's not good. Okay. I hate that for Chris because I think Chris Welsh is actually really good at his job. So, I like when the best person wins.
Chris works though a lot more than I think. Chris does a lot of radio, so he actually does as many. He actually does more series than probably a lot of other people in his position. But he's good on radio too.
Chris is great at his job. Big fan. Well, I hope that us as Reds fans get an opportunity to see what we're all hoping for relatively soon. Otherwise, I'm not sure where we go, Nick. I'm not sure what we talk about a whole bunch. This team is there's holes, and I don't know. There's just not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of optimism that I can provide if you're looking for wins.
TJ Friedel played really well tonight.
He did. He's a center fielder. Why? And I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that tonight because I'm not just saying that because he made one play. I've over the course of a year, I feel like TJ has played that position really well. And it's like we got Senzel. Nothing against Senzel. Like I don't think Senzel's a better outfielder than Friedel. Barrero certainly isn't.
If they're both out there together, does it matter?
I think center field matters. Center field's the most important of all three. Yeah.
Well, but what I'm kind of getting at is, so if you have Senzel and Friedel, and you know they're both going to be in the outfield.
Yeah.
And you know that Nick Senzel's probably more comfortable playing center field. Does it matter all that much?
See, that's where I just have a fundamental problem with that line of thinking. And I'm not saying it's you are doing this, and I'm not even suggesting that maybe the Reds are doing it, but I do have a fundamental issue of saying, well, just because you're better at it, but this other guy doesn't really feel comfortable here, you're going to have to move. Even though you're the best player at this specific position. That I just don't like. I'm not a fan of that. You know, if you're the best shortstop, and just because there's another guy, like, I don't think that you don't move him unless it's fractionally close. Like, maybe that's what you're getting at. You think it's fractionally close. I don't know. I've said this a million times on the show. The most important positions that this team needs to solidify is a center fielder, a shortstop, and a catcher. We have not had all three of those positions. Hell, two of those positions most of the years. We've not had all three of those positions locked up for a very long time. So, TJ Friedel, I'd like to get comfortable out in center field and say, you're the guy. Could you imagine moving Jim Edmonds to left field because some guy that's a utility player just says, I think I could play center field better. Not better than Jim Edmonds, but just I could play better. I'm more comfortable in center field instead of left.
I mean, in fairness, Senzel was the center fielder first, and he also was moving multiple positions to give.
Senzel was a center fielder first, but not like he had played an ample amount of games or a ton of time out there to where I would be like, okay, he's been out there a significant amount. But I get your point. It's well taken. I don't think it's even worth really debating or even discussing over, but I just hope that we don't. My main point is I hope we don't move Ellie and or McLean or you know where I'm going with this. We can't move those guys just because other people are more comfortable at whatever position it is. Like, best person wins. You get the position, you move on.
Ellie's the shortstop. Yeah, I 100% agree there. He needs to get every chance at shortstop. I don't know if I'm necessarily all that worried about anyone else having to be at one particular position. I don't think I want to see Christian Encarnacion just try and play third base all the time. But I don't know.
Christian Encarnacion. Also, we're not getting into the weeds tonight because we need both. I need sleep. I don't know if you need sleep. I definitely know you need sleep based off the fact that you edited a 2.5 hour long space and then decided to make it a podcast, which was fantastic, by the way. Nick, you're the best in the world. You're the best in the world about all that. You're unbelievable. However, we're not getting into this debate tonight. Maybe we'll save it for another show. I'd like to know why CES is so bad at first base. I got to watch him. To be fair, I've not seen him play a ton of first base, but you got to be really bad for me to think that. And I know. Here's the thing, Nick. You're going to pull up some analytics and some stats, and that's fair.
I'm just seeing how many games he's played at first base. I don't think
that's what I wanted to know. It's like, how many actual games do we have to go off of?
We're on the same page. He's only played 34. He's only started 34 games at first base in the minor league. So, I mean, I think he needs more time there. And honestly, not to get it too far into the weeds, I think his defense is probably the biggest reason he may not be here right now. They may say, hey, we want this guy to be a little bit better at first base before we call him up. And I know a lot of people are going to like that, but I don't think they want to call him up and have him be really learning first base on the fly in the majors. I think that might be, and Charlie Goldsmith had a quote today that really kind of triggered that thinking in my head from Nick Kroll from back in spring training. Because you can't just call him up and DH him. Like, he's got to play a position.
Listen, what are we so scared about bringing guys in the major leagues and letting them figure it, letting them learn up here? Are we worried about our record, Nick? Are we concerned over the fact that maybe they won't play as well? Listen, what I'm about to say is going to ruffle some feathers, but playing first base at AAA is no damn bit different than playing first base in the major leagues. Outside of maybe 2 or 3, 4, 5 plays, I'll call it 5 plays throughout the whole year. There's going to be some balls that are pissed on in AAA down the first base line that you're going to catch, and there's going to be some balls in the major leagues that are pissed on that you're going to have to catch. The difference is next to nothing. The major difference in Major League Baseball and AAA is what you have to do when you get to the plate. That is the main difference. Now, you could argue with me that the catcher position could be a little bit different, but I'm not buying the rest of it.
There's a big difference if you screw up, though. Like,
not this year. This year.
You make a boneheaded play at first base in the major leagues. It's all over Twitter.
Please. And you think those guys care about that? You think that they should care about that? Like, I tell you what, Nick, this is my thing. If these guys are as fragile as you make them out to be sometimes, then we need a better sports psychologist in the Reds farm system and organization right now. These guys aren't made of glass. They're grown men. Grow up. Get a pair. Quit worrying about what other people think of you. If you start struggling in the major leagues and you have to get sent back down, Nick, big whoop. Figure it out in AAA. Come back up to the big leagues when you're ready. I'm tired of being like, I am so tired. We can't bring them up. They might get their feelings hurt. Could you imagine if CES comes up and he only hits 2 home runs instead of 4 in a game? Could you imagine if Matt McLain comes up and instead of hitting for a homer, a triple, a double, and a single, instead he's only allowed to get 2 singles? I mean, he's going to be so irate, he's not going to know what to do with himself. I'm so tired of the Reds. Not you. I'm not trying to crush you by any means. I love Nick Kirby. But I'm so tired of hearing this song and dance of everybody saying, oh, if you bring them up too early, they might not have the same success. CES is tearing the ball off the cover in AAA. Was the best hitter in spring training. And all of a sudden now it's like, well, you can give him another month in the minors and he might be able to figure out how to play defense at first base. And when he comes up, he's going to save us a run or two maybe all year long in the major leagues when we're going to win 67 games regardless or 75. I don't care because you're right, Nick. If this organization was in a position right now to make the playoffs or go to the postseason, everything you're saying is true. But we're not. So if you bring them up now, and they make mistakes, you live with it. No big deal. Just wipe your hands clean and we move on. We'll get them next time.
I think I'd be on the opposite of that. I think if the Reds were like trying to win the World Series, I'd be like, I'm not worried as much about the development and I'd be more willing to risk. But you also have to factor in what did the Reds tell Christian Encarnacion and Strand like when he went to AAA? Like, do they not give these guys goals? Like, we want you to do this, this, and this. And I'm sure one of them was work at first base. So if they feel like he's not met that goal, do you make him continue to work towards that?
Nick, I can't get over the fact that you just told me if we were playing to go to the World Series or the postseason, you wouldn't be as concerned about bringing these guys up.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be as worried about rushing guys. I mean, it's more of an all hands on deck. Let's go for it. When you're not worried about wins and losses, I'm more concerned about making sure the guys called up at the time that's best for them.
But there's more to lose if you make a mistake when we're going for a postseason run. If CES came up and he was playing first base and he wasn't ready to play first base, like I'm not saying, again, I'm not trying to attack you, Nick, so don't take any of this personal, please.
I don't take it personal.
If CES were to come up and play first base and you said he's not ready because maybe he needs to figure some things out defensively at the lower level before he comes up, if he makes mistakes when we're trying to make the postseason, we at that point should be pissed off and should say maybe he shouldn't have come up because he's actually affecting the team in a negative way. I'm saying if you're trying to let him learn how to play first base, bring him up now when it doesn't matter and he has nothing to lose. He gets experience at the major league level, and if he makes mistakes, who gives a damn because we're going to lose anyway probably. What about that logic? If he makes an error and we lose the game, and now instead of being 1 game back with 5 to play, we're 2 back with 5 to play, I think that's right for reason of saying we probably shouldn't have brought him up because that's a pretty big pretty big reason as to why you don't want to have him.
Well, I'm agreeing with you that the Reds are better with Christian Encarnacion Strand and Matt McLain. So if we're trying to win, then just have them come up. If you're not, then I think you can be a little more patient. That's what I'm getting. I'm looking at this more like Aroldis Chapman in 2010. If the Reds were out of the race, do you think they move him to the bullpen to help get them over to the hump for the playoffs? No, they let him stay in AAA and be a starter. I think this is the same concept. Obviously, learning to play first base defense is not nearly as intense as being a reliever versus a starter, but that's kind of how I'm viewing this, as you have the ability not to rush these guys. If you think there's something they can work on and you think it's more beneficial for them to be down, it's not going to hurt it. That's where I'm coming from. But I'm with you. The Reds are better with Christian Encarnacion Strand and Matt McLain. I am not denying that. The defense be damned. They're going to be better. But I'm not concerned about an extra win or two right now because the season's not going anywhere.
You know, I would love to have, and this is why I would never get probably credentialed, and if I did, they'd revoke it within a week. Because I'd love to ask Nick and or whoever it is deciding that these guys aren't going to come up yet, and they might get called up tomorrow, and then at that point, this is what I'm getting ready to say is a moot point. But I'd like to ask them the question of what more do you want to see, and what else do you think that CES has to learn down in AAA that you are specifically looking for that he can't do at the major league level this year?
I think it's defense. I know you don't like that they want him to be more comfortable.
So he can't learn defense he can't learn how to play defense at the major league level. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think they don't want him to learn it at the major league level.
Okay,
and then but I think that's the reason why.
That's fair, and then I would bet that would beg a perfect follow-up question, because when you're a good interviewer, you listen. You ask questions based off of what the other person says. So if he said that specifically like you did, I'd say I don't want him to learn defense at the major league level instead of I want him to learn at the AAA. I would ask the simple question of why? What is it that's so different?
I would say they'd probably say it's easier to learn at the AAA level.
And why is that? They have better coaching at AAA?
There's just less pressure.
Oh, so it comes back to the sports psychologist and wanting to make sure these guys aren't glass and we want to hurt their feelings. Is that what this thing is? Are we just going to do this circle? That's what this all comes down to, I guess?
I support more money into sports psychologists, though.
I got another question for you. If you were to make a bunch of errors at the AAA level, do you think that would be better for someone or worse than someone to make him at the major league level? I mean,
I think
you're just worried about guys' feelings.
I think it would be. You're making it feelings is. I'm not
what it is.
No, we need to change the word feelings to confidence. I feel like that's a more fair way to evaluate.
All right. Confidence.
Feelings sounds really
so
trivial.
how many games between, this guy's, that's the other thing too. These guys are collegiate players. They're 23, 24 years old, Nick. Grayson just wants to be a part of the show.
Grayson.
How many games do these guys have to play before they're ready to go? I mean, Matt McLain, how many games? Do me a favor, chat. I want to know, how many games has Carlos Correa played at the major leagues when he was the same age as Matt McLain? And was the Astros worried about his mentality or him not succeeding when he was playing in World Series games?
Carlos Correa played 34 games at AAA. Matt McLain's probably like what, right at 30, right at that number right now?
How old was he? This is going to be hurt your feelings.
I mean, he was younger. He was 20
years old. Matt McLain, about to be 24. 4 years. 4 years. that Carlos Correa was playing in the major leagues before we're scared to bring up a guy in the big leagues because it might hurt his confidence. It might hurt his confidence. We don't want to bring him up quite yet. However, I'm just painting the picture on the other side. I get you're in a difficult spot of what you're trying to maneuver and manage because you're trying to justify a little bit why the Reds would not want to bring him up. So you're just trying to basically be fair to them. And I think that's admirable. I really do. And I don't think that it can be completely off topic or off base. But I'm ready to see these guys play at the major leagues because they've done all they could possibly do at AAA to say, at least give me a cup of coffee, see how it goes. And if I struggle, cool. There's this cool thing called options that they give in Major League Baseball that allow guys to go from major leagues down to AAA and then from AAA back to the major leagues. And I think that if you're the Reds organization, it'd be really cool if they let the whole entire organization know that this is a very fluid organization, which means you can go up to major leagues, you can go to AAA, you can go from AAA to AA, you can go from AA right back to the big leagues. Just because you get demoted doesn't mean your career's over. But to your point, you could say that maybe, Do you have any last question for you, and we're getting off of here? Promise. Do you think it's just a matter of you're either good enough or you're not? How many guys actually don't succeed because they don't have the confidence? Or is it just because they're not good enough?
I think there's also an element to this where it's a crapshoot if it's the right time to call these guys up or not. I think so many times we make it say, this guy's ready, this guy's not ready. Do any of us really know? Like, I don't think the Reds are scared to call these guys up. I don't think that's part of it. I just think, like Matt McClain today was his 30th game at AAA. Carlos Correa, the guy you brought up, he played 34.
McClain's got 4 more games.
CES didn't get promoted to AA until July of last year. So it's not like these guys have been at these levels for like an entire season. Like Joey Votto, when he came up, he was in AAA for a whole year, and he was in there too long. Don't get me wrong. I think there's more than one way to do it. I think Nick Kroll has a plan. I don't think Nick Kroll gives a damn what our feelings are. Nick Kroll does not.
Of course he doesn't care.
He doesn't get emotional when he sees a cycle and a guy hit for 3 home runs. He's like, hey, my plan was whatever it is. I don't know what it is. None of us know what it is. And he's going to stick to it. And people are going to hate that. But overall, I like that Nick Kroll doesn't care, because that's how the Reds need run. Because for too long, they have cared about things that, like calling up players or Billy Hamilton, getting too long of a run or not trading guys.
Yeah.
So I think that mindset overall, not in every situation, is a good mindset.
Fred brings up a good point. Friedel's a guy that came up, struggled, got sent back down, came back.
But Friedel wasn't a top prospect. I mean,
Friedel was. So the only guys you got to baby, are the top prospects. Those are the guys. The guys that got to grind and they don't get all the glamour. Those are the true nut cutters. Those are the ones that actually can get shit done when it matters the most. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no. But TJ Friedel also spent almost a whole year in AAA before he even got up.
My last question to you. I like just having fun with you. Would you do me a favor, Nick? What were the stats of while you have it up? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. You can pull it back up if not. What was Carlos Correa doing at AAA for the 34 games? What did his stats look like exactly?
Now you asked the right question, because he only had a 789 OPS. When did he get called up?
So he had a 789 OPS.
And they were not good that year either.
And they just thought the Astros organization, who's won World Series, who you could argue is maybe the model the Reds should look after. Are you telling me they just said, you know what, the hell with it? We're terrible up here anyways. What's it matter? Let's get these guys big league experience. Let's let them get a taste of the big leagues. Let's try to see if they can stick or not stick. Let's see if they got the guts. Let's see if they're nut cutters. You think that's what they were doing? So they brought them all up, and they figured it out. That's what they did.
Good. The Astros were good that year. They won 86 games. But again, there's not one way to do this. You also have Chris Bryant. You also have Chris Bryant that sat in AAA forever.
That was service time. That was service time.
But he sat there forever.
How pissed are you going to be, Nick? How pissed are you going to be, Nick? If, and I know you're going to say you're going to do it. And I put out the hypothetical today. I know you're going to lie. You're going to lie right through those pearly white teeth of yours. How pissed are you going to be if the Reds bring up CES, McLean, maybe they bring up Ellie around the same time. I don't know when. But let's just say they bring up those two. And again, it could be coincidental. It could probably be something that won't happen. But what happens if they start winning? And they start playing around 500, a little bit above 500 ball. And next thing you know, they bring up Ellie. And he starts playing incredibly well. You know Aquino, that guy that just got demoted in Japan? He had a pretty good month to start his career. Just saying. So if of all of these things that can be true or not true, TJ Friedl can struggle, get sent down. Well, he played in the minor leagues long enough to where he can come back up and have success. Well, you couldn't have started a career better off than Aquino. You couldn't have literally started off. You want to talk about confidence? That guy probably thought he was heading to Cooperstown. And next thing you know, he's getting demoted in Japan. So sometimes you're either good enough or you're not. It's as simple as that. You can either play or you can't. And if you can't handle the pressure, okay, to be able to hold your job at a major league level, then you can't win a World Series with a guy like that. You can't. You think the pressure, Nick, is high when you're in a situation where the team's supposed to win 68, 69 games and you're just coming up for the first time? You think that's pressure? Or do you think there's pressure when it's Game 6 of the World Series and you have to win and you're up to bat with the bases loaded and you're down by 1? Which of the two might be a little more pressure? I'm going to go with the latter. You can't win a World Series with the guy on the front end that's too scared to not be able to hold his job. Period. Point blank. End of story. It's an opinion, but I consider it fact.
Very good. I'm going to be excited as hell when these guys come up. I'm going to be excited. I'm going to jump for joy with everyone else. I don't think if they call them tomorrow, I don't think that's the wrong move, but I also don't have an issue with them not calling them up. That's where I'll leave it.
All right. I love
Tomorrow's
you, Nick.
starters?
Tomorrow's starters, baby. I got to get some rest. And you know who else needs some rest? And probably should take some classes on being a better person? I'll leave it for another day. Go ahead and tell everybody who another starters are.
All right, Mike Clevenger for the White Sox, 1 year, $12 million deal.
Needs a haircut.
Both of these pitchers have allowed a lot of home runs lately. Clevenger, 5 home runs allowed over his last 3 starts, walking a ton of dudes. So hopefully the Reds getting a guy at the right time. They haven't faced Clevenger since 2020. Nick Lodolo, 7 home runs allowed his last 3 starts. Has got to find a way to keep the ball in the park. One quick point on, or 2 quick points on Nick Lodolo. Really bad splits versus right-handed pitching. Or right-handed batters. He's dominated left-handed batters. They're hitting buck 91 against him. Right-handed batters hitting 367. So maybe that's something to kind of watch tomorrow. White Sox do have a very right-handed dominant lineup for the most part, especially in this matchup. Last thing on Lodolo. Lodolo has allowed an OPS of over 1,800 when he is behind in the account. That is the worst in Major League Baseball. So Lodolo, I think a big key for him is going to be throwing first pitch strikes. And maybe, we've seen him miss a lot, and that's been the homers that we've seen. But maybe it's because he's falling behind in the account so much. That's what I got for tomorrow.
Fair enough. I'll tell you one thing. I never seen Chad Brindle versus Bryce Spalding on my bingo card. But here we are. I am this close from going off too, boys. I've gotten little to no rest. I'm tired. I have 3 children. I have a wife that's probably not happy with me because I haven't helped her out enough around here, which I haven't. That's to be fair. I haven't. But let me tell you something. I am so tired of people getting on these Reds. I'm so tired of hearing about, they're never going to be good. I am so sick of it that I probably should go to bed. Because you know what? This isn't about pinning organizations against each other. But if you're going to start pinning some organizations against each other, I would literally bet my mortgage, and that is a dumb move, but I would do it. I will bet my house against your house. And I don't even worry about what the house looks like because I know I'm going to win it. That the Cincinnati Reds will win a playoff game before UC football and or UC basketball wins the Big 12. They could take that bet?
I like it. Go Reds.
Way to fire me up, Nick. All right. Let's hit him with the promos. Let's hit him with the promos, Nick.
It's the weekend, so just the one.
It's the weekend. Chat. Whatever I say on this show can and should not be held against me. But I can't help myself. Sometimes people just irritate me. And I don't mean anything irrespectable against UC. They're probably good people.
I do.
The UC football and UC basketball, they got a little bit of a wake-up call coming. Just saying. Just saying.
Shout out Sir Boy. Shout out Sir Boy.
Quit. Shout out Sir Boy. Shout out Evan. Shout out OJ's Broncos. Shout out Mouse Cop. And I seen Juan in the chat. And most importantly, Fred. As always, and most important, I'll see you tomorrow. Go Reds. Sir Boy, thank you for the super chat. You thought I was going to miss you. You thought I wasn't going to come back and end this show by thanking you. Sir Boy, thank you.
Leaderman.